I don't remember the exact moment my family stopped seeing me as a person and started seeing me as an obligation, but I'll never forget the day I finally broke. My name is Marin Cole, and this is the story of how the people who should have loved me most forgot the biggest milestone of my life on purpose, and how I made them regret it by changing my name and vanishing from their lives forever. Growing up, I was the middle child sandwiched between two attention magnets. My older brother, Taryn, won every award imaginable: science fairs, spelling bees, athletic trophies. He collected praise like it was going out of style. My parents never missed his events, not one. They'd arrive early with cameras ready, beaming with pride. Then there was my younger sister, Brielle, the delicate one, the baby who always needed extra attention, extra help, extra everything. When she cried, the world stopped turning. When she accomplished anything, even the smallest task, my parents threw celebrations. And me? I was what they called the easy one. What they really meant was, she doesn't demand attention, so we don't have to give her any. I remember my 8th birthday clearly. Mom had promised a small party with a cake. Nothing fancy. I never asked for much. I waited all day, watching the clock, straightening my favorite blue dress. 6 o'clock came and went, then 7, then 8. At 9, my parents rushed through the door with Taryn, breathless with excitement. "He won the regional science competition," Mom announced, not even looking at me. "We're getting ice cream to celebrate." I stood there in my party dress, the dining room decorated with balloons I'd blown up myself, as they grabbed Brielle and headed back out. "Oh, Marin," Dad said, finally noticing me. "There's leftover pizza in the fridge. Don't wait up." The door closed. The house fell silent. That was the first time I clearly remember thinking, I don't exist to them. I didn't cry. Instead, I blew out the candle I'd stuck in a cupcake I'd made myself and whispered, "Happy birthday" to me. That night taught me a lesson I carried for years. Hoping for their attention only led to disappointment. It was safer to expect nothing. Before I tell you what happened next, let me ask you this. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted most? If you have, you'll feel this story deep in your soul, and if you know that kind of pain, hit subscribe, not because it helps me, but because stories like this remind us that sometimes silence and strength are the best revenge. After my 8th birthday, I started collecting moments of neglect like other kids collected baseball cards or friendship bracelets. Each incident became another entry in my mental scrapbook labeled "Proof I Don't Matter." When I was 10, I got the lead in the school play. I left the information sheet about performance dates on the refrigerator, highlighted the times, even circled my name in red marker. On opening night, I peeked through the curtain at an audience filled with proud parents, except mine. My row of seats remained empty. Later, Mom said, "Brielle had a doctor's appointment. You understand, right? You're our strong one." At 12, I won a writing contest. The ceremony was during school hours when parents had to take off work to attend. I didn't even tell mine about it. The teacher asked, "Where are your parents, Marion?" I just shrugged and said, "They're busy, it's fine." By 14, I'd perfected invisibility. I moved silently through the house, making my own meals, doing my own laundry, helping myself with homework. I stopped asking for rides, figured out the bus system, and became completely self-sufficient. My parents praised my independence to their friends. "Marin is so mature for her age, never gives us any trouble." Translation: she's learned not to need us, so we don't have to feel guilty for ignoring her. The pattern continued into high school. While my family attended every one of Taryn's football games and Brielle's dance recitals, they missed my honor society induction. When I graduated with honors, second in my class, they showed up late, missed my speech, and left early because Brielle felt sick. My 16th birthday passed without acknowledgement until 3 days later when Mom suddenly remembered. "Oh, I forgot to get you something. Here's $20." I didn't tell her I'd already bought myself a cake and eaten it alone in my room. The worst part wasn't the neglect. It was how they made it seem normal. How they trained me to believe I didn't deserve the basic attention they lavished on my siblings. After years of this treatment, I developed a protective numbness. I stopped hoping, stopped expecting, stopped being disappointed. I told myself I didn't need their validation, but deep down, a small voice whispered, "What would it feel like to be seen just once?" Little did I know, my biggest test was still coming, the day I'd finally discover exactly how invisible I truly was to them. College became my only goal, my ticket out, my chance to finally breathe without the constant reminder of my invisibility. But when I brought up college applications during dinner one night, my parents exchanged a look that said everything. "We've been saving for Taryn's med school," Mom explained. "And we'll need to prepare for Brielle's education, too." Dad didn't even look up from his plate. "You've always been independent, Marin. I'm sure you'll figure something out." That night, I cried for the last time over my family. When the tears dried, something hardened inside me. If they wouldn't help me, I'd do it myself. I applied for every scholarship I could find. I filled out financial aid forms alone, using tax information I had to beg my parents to provide. When the acceptance letters came, no one asked to see them. When I won a partial scholarship, no one congratulated me. It wasn't enough to cover everything, so I took out loans. Then I got a job at the campus library, and another waiting tables, and a third tutoring freshmen on weekends. I slept 4 hours a night. I lived on ramen and coffee. I studied between shifts, during breaks, and on bus rides between jobs. My grades never slipped, not once. In my second year, I chose to major in social psychology. For my thesis, I decided to research emotional neglect in families. My professors were impressed by my insight, never realizing I was documenting my own life. "This is remarkable work, Marin," my advisor told me. "You have a true gift for understanding human behavior patterns." It was the first time anyone had ever recognized something special in me. I nearly broke down crying right there in her office. As graduation approached, I found myself excelling beyond my own expectations. I was nominated for department honors. My thesis was selected for publication. Professors asked about my plans for graduate school. For the first time, I felt seen. For the first time, I felt valued. And foolishly, I thought maybe, just maybe, my family would finally notice too. Graduation day. The one milestone I couldn't let them miss. I started planning months in advance. I sent the invitation with a handwritten note. "This means everything to me. Please be there." I texted the date and time repeatedly. I emailed maps of campus with the ceremony location highlighted. I even called to confirm. "We'll try to make it," Mom said, distracted as always. "What time is it again?" I repeated the information for the 5th time. "Got it. We'll see what we can do." I should have known better than to hope. But part of me, that stubborn, broken part that refused to stop believing in them, thought graduation might be different. This wasn't a school play or a birthday. This was the culmination of 4 years of backbreaking work, all done without their help. Surely they would show up for this. The morning of graduation, I stood in my tiny apartment bathroom, adjusting my cap and gown in the mirror. My hands shook slightly as I smoothed down the front. 3 hours until the ceremony. I sent one final text reminder to the family group chat. Only Taryn responded, a thumbs-up emoji. When I arrived at the ceremony grounds, families clustered everywhere. Mothers cried proudly, fathers hugged their children, siblings held congratulatory signs. The noise was overwhelming. Laughter, shouts of celebration, camera shutters clicking. I kept scanning the crowd, looking for familiar faces. My row had 4 empty seats, the ones I'd reserved for my family. "They're probably just running late," I whispered to myself, checking my phone again. No messages. The ceremony began. More empty seats. The speech is finished. Still empty. The first row of graduates crossed the stage. Nothing. When they called Marin Cole, I walked across that stage alone. I shook the dean's hand, accepted my diploma, and looked out at the audience one last time. The 4 seats remained empty. No one was there to witness my greatest achievement. I walked back to my apartment still wearing my graduation gown. My phone hadn't buzzed once. Not a text, not a call, nothing. The silence was deafening. When I reached my building, I sat on the front steps, staring at my diploma cover. 4 years of work, 4 years of sacrifice, 4 years of proving I could succeed without them, and they couldn't give me 3 hours. My hands trembled as I finally dialed my mother's number. She answered on the 4th ring. Hello? Her voice was casual, distracted. I could hear the TV in the background and Brielle laughing about something. Mom, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. The graduation was today. A pause. Then, oh, was that today? I thought it was next weekend. My stomach dropped. No, it was today, at 2 o'clock. Like I've been telling you for months. Well, honey, you know how busy things get around here. She sighed like I was inconveniencing her. Taryn needed help moving some furniture, and Brielle had a hair appointment she couldn't reschedule. A hair appointment. My sister's hair appointment was more important than my college graduation. I sent you multiple reminders, I said. I called yesterday to confirm. Did you? She sounded genuinely confused. I must have forgotten. It's been hectic. The casual dismissal of what mattered to me felt like a physical blow. Besides, she continued, her voice brightening as if offering me a consolation prize, you've always been so independent. We figured you'd be fine without us there. That was the moment, the exact moment when something inside me broke beyond repair. Not fine without them there. Fine without them. Period. You're right, I said quietly. I am fine without you. I hung up before she could respond. I sat there for hours as the sun set, turning my phone over and over in my hands. No call back, no apology, no acknowledgement of what they'd done. They hadn't forgotten my graduation. They'd forgotten me. You know what hurts the most? Not what they did, but that I still tried to make them proud after everything. If you've ever given people too many chances, you already understand this pain. Don't just scroll. Subscribe. Join people who've been through it too, because you deserve stories that make you feel seen. That night, I made a decision that would change everything. I opened my laptop and typed, "How to legally change your name." I wasn't running away. I was walking towards something better, a version of myself that wasn't defined by being overlooked. For hours, I researched the process, the forms I'd need, the fees I'd pay, the legal notifications required. Each click, each page of information felt like drawing a boundary my family could never cross. I didn't want their last name anymore. Why carry the name Cole when the Coles had never carried me? I considered dozens of surnames, testing each one like trying on a new identity. Then I found it. Hale. Old English meaning healthy, whole, strong. Everything I needed to become, everything I'd never been allowed to be in my family. Marin Hale. Just saying it aloud felt like breathing fresh air after being underwater. The next morning, I gathered the required documents: birth certificate, driver's license, Social Security card, court filing forms. Each piece of paper represented another step toward freedom. When I handed over my credit card to pay the filing fee, the clerk asked, "Family name or marriage?" "Neither," I answered. Just becoming who I was, always meant to be. She smiled, stamping the papers. "Good for you, honey." The process took weeks, notifying publications, appearing before a judge, explaining my reasons without revealing the depth of pain behind them. I no longer have contact with my family, I told the judge simply. This change represents my new life. He nodded, signed the order, and just like that, I was Marin Hale. I spent that afternoon updating everything: driver's license, social security, bank accounts, credit cards, school records. With each form, each signature, I felt lighter, stronger. The last document I changed was my diploma. I requested it be reissued in my new legal name. When it arrived weeks later, I traced my fingers over the embossed letters, Marin Hale. I hadn't just changed my name. I'd changed my story, and my family had no idea what was coming. I had changed my name without telling anyone in my family. I wanted my new identity to be established before they discovered it, if they ever did. Part of me wondered if they'd even notice I was gone. It took exactly 2 weeks. My phone rang on a Tuesday afternoon. Brielle's name flashed on the screen, the first contact from any of them since graduation. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won out. Hello? What is wrong with you? Brielle was sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. Mom says you changed your name because you hate us. I stood frozen in my kitchen, unprepared for this reaction. They weren't supposed to care. How could you do something so dramatic without telling anyone? She continued. Dad is furious. Taryn thinks you've lost your mind. I remained silent, letting her cry. What struck me most wasn't her tears, but what she said next. Why didn't you just tell us how important that stupid graduation was to you? That stupid graduation. 4 years of working 3 jobs while maintaining a 4.0 GPA. 4 years of scraping by on loans and scholarships they never offered to help with. 4 years of building a future entirely on my own. And it was stupid to want them there. It wasn't just graduation, Brielle, I finally said. It was everything. My entire life. You're being ridiculous, she sniffled. Everyone misses things sometimes. You're acting like we committed some huge crime. That's when I understood. They weren't upset because they'd hurt me. They were upset because I'd finally reacted to being hurt. Why would you change your name over one mistake? She demanded. It wasn't one mistake, I said quietly. It was a lifetime of them. Mom's right. You're being childish, Brielle said, her voice hardening. Families forgive each other. That's what they do. I almost laughed. Now they wanted to talk about family. Tell Mom and Dad I'm not angry, I said, surprising myself with how calm I felt. I'm just done. I ended the call and turned off my phone. They weren't sorry for what they'd done. They were angry that I'd finally stopped accepting it. 6 months passed without contact. I moved to a new apartment, started a new job, made new friends who knew me only as Marin Hale. Then my Uncle Robert died unexpectedly. I learned about it through a distant cousin's Facebook post. Uncle Robert had been kind to me growing up, the only relative who remembered my birthdays, who asked about my interests, who saw me when no one else did. I had to go to the funeral. Walking into that funeral home was like stepping back in time. The same family members who had overlooked me for years milled around in black clothing, exchanging hugs and sympathetic words. I signed the guest book, Marin Hale. I had just taken a seat in the back row when my mother spotted me. Her eyes widened in recognition, then narrowed as she approached. Well, she said coolly, you decided to show up. I nodded. Uncle Robert was always good to me. It's causing quite a bit of confusion, she continued, glancing at the guest book. Everyone keeps asking who Marin Hale is. You could have warned us before making such a dramatic change. Not, how are you? Not, we've missed you. Just complaints about how my choices had inconvenienced her. I sent the legal notification to your address, I said. It's required by law. Oh, that paper, she waved dismissively. We thought it was junk mail. Of course they did. My father approached next, looking uncomfortable. Your mother's right. This name business is excessive. Whatever point you're trying to make, I think we get it. I looked between them, these people who had shaped my earliest understanding of love, or rather, the absence of it. I'm not trying to make a point, I said quietly. I'm living my life, the one you were never part of. My mother's face hardened. After everything we did for you. What exactly did you do? I interrupted, my voice steady despite the pounding of my heart. Name one school event you attended, one achievement you celebrated, one time you put me first. They stared at me, silent. You lost the right to call me family the moment you decided I didn't matter, I said, standing up. Well, that's dramatic, my mother snapped. I smiled sadly. Goodbye. I walked out of the funeral home without looking back. It was the last time I spoke to any of them. After the funeral, I made a decision that changed everything. I moved across the country to Portland, a clean slate in a city where no one knew me, where I could truly become Maren Hale without shadows of the past following me. I rented a small apartment with huge windows overlooking a tree-lined street. For the first time, my living space felt like mine alone. No memories, no ghosts of disappointments past, just possibilities. My psychology degree opened doors. I landed a position at a research institute studying family dynamics and emotional resilience. The irony wasn't lost on me, using my personal trauma to help others understand theirs. What surprised me most was how different I became once freed from the constant weight of seeking approval that would never come. I spoke up in meetings. I made friends easily. I laughed louder. I existed fully, without apology. You have such a strong presence, a coworker told me once. It's like you know exactly who you are. If only she knew how recently I'd discovered that person. I developed genuine friendships, people who texted just to check in, who remembered my birthday without reminders, who saved me seats at restaurants. Small kindnesses I'd never experienced growing up became my normal. 2 years after graduation, my former university contacted me. They were preparing a feature article on alumni who had overcome significant challenges to achieve academic excellence. Your story is remarkable, the alumni coordinator said. Working multiple jobs, supporting yourself entirely, and still graduating with honors, students need to hear about resilience like yours. The article, when published, included a professional photo of me in my office, smiling confidently. The caption read, Dr. Maren Hale, whose groundbreaking research on emotional resilience is changing how we understand family systems. Dr. Maren Hale, not Cole Hale. When I finished reading the article, I realized I was crying, not from sadness, but from a profound sense of recognition. Finally, someone saw me, really saw me. When I finally stood my ground, they called me heartless. But tell me, where were they when I was breaking? If you've ever had to choose peace over people, this channel is your space. Subscribe, not for me, but for every quiet soul who took their power back. The university article circulated widely among psychology professionals and was featured in several academic newsletters. I received congratulatory emails from former professors and requests for collaboration from researchers in my field. Then one evening, a text arrived from a number I hadn't deleted but hadn't seen appear on my screen in over 2 years. Taryn. Saw your article. Didn't know you did so much. Congrats, I guess. 8 words, no apology, no acknowledgement of what he'd contributed to by his silence. Just surprised that I'd accomplished anything worth noting. I stared at the message for a long time, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. 2 years ago, I would have jumped at this tiny crumb of recognition. I would have responded instantly, grateful for the barest acknowledgement. But Maren Hale didn't need crumbs. I set the phone down without replying and went about making dinner. When I checked later, I saw he'd sent a follow-up. Mom and Dad saw it too. They didn't know you changed your name legally, thought you were just being difficult. Even now, they were dismissing my choices. Even now, after years of silence, they viewed my decisions as merely an attempt to inconvenience them. For the first time, I felt something unexpected: pity. I pitied them for being so small, so incapable of growth, so limited in their capacity for love. I deleted both messages without responding. That night, I slept more peacefully than I had in years, finally free of the question that had haunted me since childhood. Would my family ever realize what they'd done to me? Would they ever regret missing my graduation? Would they ever feel the loss of me? The truth was simpler and more liberating than I'd expected. Some people don't change. Some people can't see the pain they cause. Some people only value what they've lost after it's gone. And that was no longer my problem. 6 months after Taryn's text, an official-looking envelope arrived at my apartment. The return address showed a law firm I didn't recognize. Inside was a letter that changed everything again. Dear Ms. Cole, now legally Ms. Hale, we regret to inform you of the passing of your uncle, Robert Cole. As executor of his estate, I am contacting you regarding a provision in his will. I sat down hard on my couch. Uncle Robert had already died. I'd been at his funeral. Why was I receiving this now? Reading further, I discovered the truth. Uncle Robert had 2 wills. The first was the standard family inheritance that had been executed immediately after his death. The second, this one, had been kept private, to be revealed 6 months after his passing. In it, Uncle Robert had left me $175,000. Your uncle specified this bequest should go to you alone, the letter continued. He requested we find you regardless of name changes or relocations. I felt tears forming. Even in death, Uncle Robert had seen me when no one else did. The letter ended with a legal note that made my stomach drop. As required by state law, we must notify your immediate family of this distribution using your birth name, Maren Cole. The lawyer had attached his business card with a note. Call with questions. I did, immediately. Yes, I'm afraid the notification is mandatory, he explained. The law requires all immediate family members be informed of substantial bequests. When will they be notified? I asked. The letters went out yesterday, he replied. They should receive them tomorrow. I hung up and stared at my phone, knowing what was coming. My family, who hadn't bothered to reach out in years except for Taryn's half-hearted text, would suddenly have a very strong interest in reconnecting with me. Right on cue, my phone began ringing the next evening. Mom, then Dad, then Brielle, then Taryn. One after another, like dominoes falling. I let every call go to voicemail. Mom's message came first. Moran, honey, call us back. We need to talk about Uncle Robert's situation. We've been so worried about you. Dad's was briefer. This is your father. Call home immediately. Brielle left a tearful message. I miss you so much, sis. We all do. Please come home. Taryn's was the most honest. So Uncle Robert left you money. We should discuss this as a family. Money. Not graduation, not birthdays, not accomplishments, but money was enough to make them remember my number. When ignoring their calls didn't work, my family launched what I can only describe as a coordinated attack. They took turns, each with their own approach. Like they'd planned it out at a strategy meeting. Mom called daily, alternating between guilt and sweetness. How could you cut us off like this? We raised you. We just want to know you're okay, sweetheart. Family forgives, Maren. That's what family does. Dad tried the authority angle, leaving stern messages. This has gone on long enough. It's time to act like an adult and talk to your family. Your behavior is concerning to all of us. We deserve an explanation. Brielle went for emotional manipulation. Remember when we built that fort in the backyard? Remember how you helped me with my math homework? How can you forget those times? What memories was she talking about? The fort she built with Dad while I watched from the window? The homework help I gave because our parents were busy with Taryn's soccer game? Taryn's approach was most direct. This silent treatment is childish. Uncle Robert wanted the family to stay connected. His money should benefit everyone. When calls failed, they escalated. Emails, Facebook messages, even letters to my workplace. Then they started showing up. Mom appeared at my office building one afternoon. I was in the area, she claimed, though Portland was a 5-hour flight from their home. Brielle, coincidentally, ran into me at a coffee shop near my apartment. "Total surprise seeing you here," she exclaimed, though she'd never visited Portland before. Dad and Taryn cornered me outside my apartment building after work. "We need to talk," Dad said, blocking my path. "This has gone far enough." I looked between them, these people who couldn't make time for my graduation, but could fly across the country for Uncle Robert's money. "I have nothing to say to any of you," I told them calmly. "You're being childish," Dad insisted. "We're family," Taryn added. "Family shows up," I replied. "Family cares. Family sees you." "We made one mistake," Mom cried during another ambush attempt. "No," I corrected her. "You made a lifetime of choices, and now I'm making mine." With each encounter, their tactics grew more desperate. They tried to engage my coworkers, my neighbors, even my friends. "Your family seems so worried about you," my neighbor commented after Mom spent 30 minutes crying on her doorstep. They weren't worried about me. They were worried about what I represented, consequences for their actions, money they couldn't access, and the uncomfortable reality that someone they'd discarded had found value without them. 3 months into their pressure campaign, the call I secretly feared arrived. Brielle's number flashed on my screen at 2:17 a.m. Something told me this wasn't another guilt trip. Dad had a heart attack. Her voice shook through tears. "The doctors say it's serious. You need to come home now. He's asking for you." The world tilted beneath me. Despite everything, this was my father, the man who taught me to ride a bike, who hung my kindergarten drawings on the fridge before Taryn's trophies took over. "Which hospital?" I asked, already reaching for my laptop to book a flight. Then Brielle added, "He keeps saying he needs to make things right before it might be too late. Can you bring the inheritance paperwork? Mom says we should all discuss it while everyone's together." My hand froze over the keyboard. Even now, even with Dad potentially dying, they were thinking about the money. "Just tell me which hospital," I repeated. "Memorial General." "But Marin, about Uncle Robert's will." I hung up. I sat in the dark, shaking. Was I really considering not going? What kind of monster would ignore their father's heart attack? But what kind of family uses a medical emergency to manipulate their daughter about money? I booked a flight but didn't tell them when I'd arrive. I wouldn't give them the chance to ambush me at the airport. At the hospital, I slipped past the waiting room where Mom, Brielle, and Taryn huddled together. I found Dad's room and stood in the doorway, watching his chest rise and fall beneath a tangle of monitoring wires. He looked smaller, older. The machines beeped steadily. I approached the bed quietly and took his hand. His eyes fluttered open. "Marin," he whispered. "You came." "I came for you," I clarified, "not for what they want from me." He squeezed my hand weakly. "I'm sorry we missed your graduation." After all this time, those simple words nearly broke me. "I know," I said. "Can we start over?" he asked. "All of us?" Before I could answer, I heard Mom's voice in the hallway talking to a nurse. "And while we're all together, we need to discuss the inheritance situation." I gently placed Dad's hand back on the bed. "I sent flowers and a get well card," I told him. "But I can't stay." I slipped out through a side door, tears streaming down my face. I wanted to forgive, to heal, but not at the cost of my hard-won self-respect. After returning to Portland, I poured myself into building connections that nourished rather than depleted me. I refused to let my family's behavior convince me I was unworthy of genuine love. I joined a weekly dinner group where 6 of us rotated hosting. Unlike family dinners where I'd been invisible, these people noticed when I was quiet and drew me into conversations. "Marin, what do you think?" became words I heard regularly, words that still startled me with their novelty. My colleague Elena invited me for Thanksgiving. "Nobody should spend holidays alone," she insisted. I almost cried explaining I'd spent most holidays essentially alone, even when surrounded by blood relatives. Elena's family welcomed me completely. Her mother hugged me like I belonged. Her father asked about my research with genuine interest. Her siblings teased me as if I'd been there all along. "You're coming for Christmas too, right?" Elena's mom asked as I was leaving. The question floored me. They actually wanted me back. I started mentoring psychology students who'd grown up in neglectful homes. One afternoon, a young woman named Jade broke down during our session. "My parents forgot my college graduation," she whispered. "They said it wasn't a big deal." I reached for her hand. "I understand completely." As I shared my story, I watched recognition dawn in her eyes, that powerful moment when someone realizes they're not alone. "You built a good life anyway," she said wonderingly. "Better than good," I assured her. "And so will you." In my personal life, I met Michael at a research conference. Our connection was immediate, the way he listened, really listened, when I spoke. After 3 months of dating, he asked why I never mentioned my family. I told him everything, bracing for judgment or disbelief. Instead, he said, they missed out on knowing an incredible person. When Dad recovered from his heart attack, he sent a letter to my office. Not about money, but an actual apology. I appreciated the gesture, but maintained my distance. Some bridges, once burned, should stay crossed. With each passing year, my chosen family grew stronger. Birthday celebrations, where I was the center of attention. Achievements met with genuine pride. Holiday traditions that included rather than overlooked me. I finally understood what family was supposed to feel like. 5 years after cutting ties with my family, I was presenting research at a psychology conference in Chicago. My work on emotional resilience in adults who experience childhood neglect had earned recognition in the field, painfully ironic considering its origins. During the networking reception, I was discussing my latest paper with colleagues when I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Dr. Hale? Marin Hale?" I turned to find Taryn standing there, conference badge hanging from his neck. He'd become a physician, apparently attending the medical wing of the same conference. The universe has a strange sense of humor. "Hello, Taryn," I said calmly, though my heart raced. My colleagues tactfully drifted away, leaving us alone in our uncomfortable reunion. "Your presentation was impressive," he said. I slipped in the back. I nodded, unsure what to say to this person who shared my blood, but not my life. "Look," he continued, clearing his throat, "I don't know if this matters anymore, but I need to say it. We failed you. I failed you. What we did, what we didn't do, was wrong." 5 years earlier, these words would have meant everything. I would have clung to them, desperate for validation. Now, I simply accepted them with a calm that surprised even me. "Thank you for saying that," I replied. We stood in awkward silence before he asked, "How are you, really?" "I'm happy," I told him, realizing as I said it how completely true it was. "I built a good life." "Mom and Dad talk about you," he offered. "They have your articles printed out." I smiled politely but felt nothing. No anger, no yearning, no regret. Just peace. Tell them I wish them well, I said, meaning it. As we parted ways, Taryn asked, "Will you ever come back?" I considered the question carefully. I don't think so, but not because I'm angry anymore. Because I don't need to. Walking away, I realized something profound. I had stopped waiting for an apology I no longer needed. I had stopped hoping for recognition from people whose opinions no longer defined me. I had stopped believing I was invisible just because they couldn't see me. Some people say, forgiveness is for yourself, not the other person. What I discovered was simpler. Sometimes moving forward isn't about forgiveness or anger, it's about finding peace in your own story. Sometimes revenge isn't about payback, it's about peace. And if this story touched you, subscribe right now. Because somewhere out there, another person is watching in silence, needing a reminder that they're not alone, and your one click might help them find it.